live from Mike's Garage. It's Saturday night. Sorry about that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Drummer. I got the band here tonight. They're going to be playing a song later if we have time. Right? Tell me about it. Thanks. That's my technical guy. He thinks he's a drummer, too.
Back online.
Woo! Back online. Live from Mike's Garage. It's Saturday night. Thanks, everybody. Good. Sorry about being late. Looks like we're, about 28 minutes late. Sorry about that. We had some really technical difficulties here. It kept saying I've exceeded my quota for live streaming time. So, and, once a week, 1 hour, can't be. So we had to update some software. I won't go into all of it. We had to change some other software. We had to update the MacBook that we're using. We had to update for the streaming. We had to update the camera software. We had to update the streaming software. But we got it. It took a long time to get everything started. So welcome to Mike's Garage. A little chilly out here tonight. I think it's about 48 degrees right now. And we're going to keep streaming from here because this is fun. Real live, be out in the weather. Just a little warmer here in the garage than it is outside, but it'll be fun. So thanks for joining in tonight, and appreciate it. Well, we got a lot to go over. It's been a good week. A little chilly here in Pittsburgh. I don't know what the temperature is out where you are. I am looking for comments. I got the comment thing up here. I can see your comments as we're streaming live. I'd like to make some comments and welcome you to the show. I'd like to start out by welcoming some of the new subscribers. A special young lady that has subscribed to me is Leah. Leah, you know who you are. I'm not sure if you're watching, but thank you for being a subscriber and thank you for being part of my life. So I do appreciate you. Listen, I just want to say hi to some of the hardcore subscribers and fans that they're always giving me comments and everything. You can read the comments on my YouTube channel if you want to go take a look at that. Joseph Ryan, he's always there, always got a good comment, always easygoing guy, got something good to say. TJ, I don't hear from you often enough, buddy. TJ's a fellow Vietnam veteran, always has something good to say. Him and I shared a story one time. He was in Fort Dix, New Jersey. And we were playing in a band there one night, and it was a huge club, all GIs from all different walks of the base. It was a big Air Force base there, an Army base, and right outside the gate was a huge bar called the Satellite Lounge, and some of the biggest names in bands came there to play. And one night we got a gig there to go and play the opening. To open for a big name guy. So we get there 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock we're on. We're supposed to play till 10, maybe 10:30, and then the big name band, whoever it was going to come in and take over, and they were going to play till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, make a long story short, we're playing 9:30, 10 o'clock, no show. The other guy doesn't show up. And now he comes over and they're begging us. They're going to pay us all kinds of money if we stay and keep playing. And, back then, you're 18, 19, 20 years old. You only know half a dozen, maybe a dozen songs. And so we said, okay, so we're playing the same songs over again, stretching them out. Instead of a 3-4 minute song, it's a 7 or 8 minute song. You know how that goes. And, there's lots of girls there. They're dancing with the guys and having a good time, and the beer's flowing. So he comes over and says, you guys got to stay. You have to stay. The other guy's not going to show. You're going to have to stay till 1 or 2 o'clock, whatever it was. We'll take care of you. We'll get you drinks on the breaks and everything. So we get a request to play a slow dance. They want a slow dance, ladies' choice. Okay. So the guys are talking and everything. The only song that the guy knows the words to is Somewhere Over the Rainbow. So he says, what are we going to do? I said, well, we can do this, we can do that. This is the rhythm we can put out, but you're going to have to sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow because the rest of us don't know the words. So he starts out. He says, okay, ladies, we got a special request here tonight for a slow dance, ladies' choice. And he starts out, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And so the girls are picking guys, and the dance floor is filling up. Now we're probably 3 feet above the dance floor on the stage, and then the stage is probably 2 steps above the seating area. Okay, so you have to leave your seat. You have to go up 2 steps to get on the dance floor, and the dance floor has a railing around it, and we're up on the stage. So right away you could see trouble was brewing. I mean, everybody's got plenty of beer in them and liquor, and Bruce is singing away somewhere over the rainbow. Joe's on the drums, and some trouble starts. Apparently, somebody was jealous that this girl was dancing with that guy. You know how that goes. So there's a lot of pushing and shoving. To make a long story short, like I always say, chaos breaks out. There are chairs flying, fists are going. And so we keep playing there for a couple of minutes, and then it gets out of control. The whole place breaks out into a big fight. There were so many chairs and teeth and blood everywhere. So we get back off the stage and we close the curtain, and we're hiding in the back. And there are all kinds of MPs come, and the local police come, and they shut the whole place down. So this is like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And so I said, well, we definitely had a bad reaction to somewhere over the rainbow. It just didn't work out. But anyway, that's TJ. He was in Fort Dix, and that's the tie-in I had with Fort Dix, is playing at the Satellite Lounge right outside the gates of Fort Dix. What a riot that was that night. But TJ, I always like to hear from you. Keep in touch. I hope they don't shut down the VA on you. I've been touching on some VA stuff for Agent Orange and things like that. They keep expanding the benefits that they're going to go, and there isn't a lot of guys from Vietnam around anymore. Most of us are in our 70s or late 60s. So the benefits are spread pretty thin over just a few guys. But anyway, Ryan Harris, always good to hear from you. I haven't. He's always good for chiming in, give me a comment or something. Always a positive guy. I appreciate him. Got a comment from Cheryl. And Cheryl, thank you for sending your comments in. Okay, I got bad weather is giving me some comments. Glad the stream is up and running. What a song choice, yeah. that was a problem. The song was just bad news. We never sang that song again anywhere we went. And we got a call from the Philadelphia Zoo. We had to change the name of the band. We weren't allowed to call it the Philadelphia Zoo anymore. Anyway, Tricia, appreciate your questions and comments. And AC, appreciate your comment. It's always good to have you guys chime in. It's a lot of fun. Let's see. I wanted to talk about this. Go back to Leah. Leah's a special young lady, a granddaughter. She plays sports. She plays softball. Just love going to the games. She's a good player. She can hit really well and fast. She's a really fast runner. One of the things we've always enjoyed at the end of the game. Now, it's different. Let me back up a little bit. You know how it is if you watch the show all the time. I jump around. Okay. In the boys always, everybody, batters wear a helmet. Okay. You wear the batting helmet. The new ones have a wraparound where it comes around towards your mouth to protect your face. Okay. With softball, the slow pitch, the dads are pitching underhand. And in the outfield, when you're not batting and you're in the outfield, you have to, and the girls have to wear a mask. You don't wear a hat. It looks like a very light catcher's mask where it has the pads across the top and the pads across the chin, and it has a wire mesh face protector on it for the girls. And I think it's a good idea for them to wear that. Nobody wants to get a broken nose or split an eyebrow with a line drive, because some of the girls can hit really hard, and you don't want to, especially if you're the pitcher or you're playing first base, second base, where you're not going to see the ball coming until it's too late. So I think it's a good idea they do that. But one of the most fun things is at the end of the game, the two teams, they have what they call a relay race. Okay, so one team gets at home plate. The other team takes all the players out to second base. Now, you have to run from second base all the way around to second base, and then the next person in line has to run the bases that way. At the same time, The other team is starting out at home plate, and they have to run from home plate all the way around to home plate, and then the next runner can run. Now, to make sure you don't leave too soon, you have to carry a softball. So when the first runner has the softball, has to run all the way around, give the softball to the next player. If you drop the softball, you have to stop and go get it. The girl who dropped it has to go get it and start running again. I mean, it is a close race, and some of the girls can fly around the bases. That really makes it really interesting, and they only win by a step or two each time. But that's one of the most fun things. The parents are screaming, the kids are screaming, jumping up and down. It's just a lot of fun. I enjoy the sports, and at all ages. I mean, we're watching the Phillies on TV right now because we're Phillies fans also, along with Pirates fans. And it's always good to have somebody to cheer for. So we're looking forward to that. Looking forward to the Steelers playing tomorrow with Pickett. Let's see how that works out. They're 14-point underdogs. Doesn't look good. Okay, sports and kids. I mentioned this before about what you learn. You learn so much more than just how to play baseball or how to play basketball or anything like that. You learn how to play on a team. You learn how to follow directions. You learn how important it is for you to do your part in the game, okay? No matter what it is. If you're cleaning up, if you're working, you get an assignment, you have to do your part. I mean, that's how it works. That's life. Sometimes you're disappointed and you lose. And if you win, you feel really good about yourself. And you always learn if you try harder, you can get better. If you lose, you have to practice harder. You have to work harder. You have to try and get better so that you'll be a winner. And that's important. I think it's an important lesson in life about how to play on a team, how to work together with other people, how to get along, how to do your assignment, because sometimes you're playing first base, sometimes you're playing catcher. Sometimes you don't get the ball at all. You're standing in the outfield, but you have to pay attention in case it's your turn to step up, okay? At some point they were saying that everybody should get a trophy, nobody should win, nobody should lose, and things like that. That's not how life is. I mean, that's sports. You hope nobody gets hurt. You have to learn how to take the good and the bad at the same time. You help push the kids that could get better, and the kids that are really good at it. And some kids are really good for that age. I mean, we're talking, first, second grade. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I don't want to go on and on about it, but I have. So, softball, we play softball. Leah's on the softball team. Sam and Henry are on baseball teams. My grandson, Phoenix, is out on the West Coast. He coaches soccer and plays basketball. He's actually on the high school basketball team. Congratulations to him for making the team. I know he worked very hard. He's always been a hard worker to get himself better. He did get cut one time, and he didn't like that. He worked very hard to make sure the next time it came up, he was going to be one of the players that made the team. So good for him. Congratulations to him. Granddaughter Gigi, she plays soccer, does a great job. Beautiful young girl. Love you, Gigi. And two other grandchildren out in the Seattle area. They play Ultimate Frisbee. If you ever seen Ultimate Frisbee, it's really a fun game. There's no real contact. I mean, you get a little bit of pushing and shoving or anything like that. But it's kind of like flag football kind of a way where you have to run and get away from the other player, and then they throw the frisbee, and that's the pass of the football. So if you ever seen that, it's really a fun thing to do, and they've had a lot of success with it. They're very good because they try hard, and they can do something with that. Let's see, I got a couple smiley faces here. Somebody's laughing at my story, so that's a lot of fun. Appreciate the comments. Could use comments from anybody. Chime in, please. I'd like to hear from you, see where you are, where you're from. Let me know. Fire off a comment for me. Well, listen, I want to go to the Ultimate Frisbee. We talked about basketball. Tomorrow's Sunday. I got 2 basketball games to go to with Sam. Sam's going to play 2 games in the morning. He's getting better, 4th grade. His skills are getting really good. He's fast, he's smart, and he has a good shot. So it's just a matter of, working with the team, getting open and things like that, but he's doing really well. It's always fun to go and see. I really enjoy watching them be successful when they go and play. He's on a good team. I think he's got a good coach and a lot of good kids around him, which really helps. It helps you try harder to be a better part of the team, and I'm very proud of him too. Let's see, we talked about all the different sports, and I think it's important to be involved with everything like that. Some people don't want to play sports, and that's fine. Sports aren't for everybody. I know I have a granddaughter that does dancing and things like that, and she's very happy with that, to do the shows. You know how you go to the high school and they rent out the auditorium and they have a show. So it's very a lot of fun with that. Gymnastics is fun also. So, that's what we do. We keep busy on the weekends to do that. Let's see. I did get a comment from Chris. We had talked before about I switch over to cars now. I am going to jump around. If you have watched any of the shows, I'm sorry, but that's what I do. Chris had sent in a question. She's having a problem with a 2019 Optima. No, an Ultima. And she says that the crash warning system is malfunctioning. The only thing I know about the crash warning system is you just have to keep the sensors clean. They do read bushes and shrubs as obstacles and danger. If you're heading to a T where you're going to have to make a right or a left, and there's a guardrail or a shrubs or something in front of you when you pull up to the intersection, it'll start beeping that, hey, be careful, you're going to run into the bushes. So even sometimes on a turn, if you go around a turn, it'll tell you that you're too close, you're going to hit something. So if you're having that problem, you really have to go back to the dealer and see what they can do about it, if anything. Some of them do have flaws. I know there's a smart cruise control, where if you have the cruise control set at 70 and it keeps you a certain distance from the car in front of you, so you don't follow too close, so you have time to stop, so the computer has time to react. If the car in front of you starts to slow down, the computer will slow your car down so you won't get any closer to the car in front of you. It won't let you catch up if you put on the smart cruise control. It's pretty neat, actually. I don't know about the self-driving. I still think there's still a lot of kinks to work out in that, but someday I think you have to have better sensors in the road and better markings on the road before you can really truly go with that. So it's very interesting, all the technology that's coming out on the cars. I love the backup camera. Had a hard time getting used to it, didn't trust it, had to keep looking in the mirrors, and then I would look at the camera to see if the same thing was going on. So I'm old school, just have a problem with some of that technology, trusting it. But it was fun. We have a lot of fun with that. Since we're talking about cars, let's go back to Florida. Devastating storm down there. The hurricane came ashore there in Fort Myers. If you've seen any of the videos, it's horrible. I think there's over 100 people that chose not to evacuate, and they drowned. I mean, they got killed in the storm. There's over 100 people now that they found. Some areas where the storm hit the hardest and caused the most damage, they still have not let the residents back into that area to survey the damage and try to reclaim some of their personal possessions. They're having a problem down there with looters. I mean, they really, some people just don't care. They're going in there and trying to grab anything that's valuable, is stealing the stuff. So I hope they have a good time getting rid of those people and don't let them do that to you. I mean, there's nothing worse than you lost everything, your house was pushed a block away. Maybe you can get in the house and save some things, and then you find out that the house was robbed right afterwards. So they're doing a good job trying to keep those people out. They're actually warning them, you better not come in here because we're not going to tolerate it. But anyway, Florida, they're still not allowed in. They're still searching for bodies. Once they clear that there's no bodies in there, they got the cadaver dogs going around trying to see if there's anybody else in there. And because it's contaminated, if you have a dead body in there, you got to clean it up. And then they're going to let the residents back in. A lot of that places were single modular homes or trailers. In one of the places, it pushed all the trailers out of the trailer park and has them all stacked up in the back of the trailer park. I don't know if you can save the trailer. The trailers that I know of are made with composition board, which means if you get it wet, it falls apart. It's not waterproof glue. The floors are glued, the walls are glued. So when it gets soaking wet like that, it pretty much just falls apart. So those trailers are just going to have to be crushed and taken away after they can try to get the valuables out of it. If there are any valuables in there, you know, family pictures, heirlooms, a photo of grandmom, whatever you want to try and go in and save. So all that stuff still has to be taking place. The one thing you want to be really careful about, and this comes out of there too, is buying anything that was submerged in salt water. Outboard motors, motorcycles, and especially cars. Now you're going to see, and because used cars are very expensive, you're going to see discounted used cars coming out of that area, and you really have to be careful. I mentioned it before about the salt water. The salt water will absolutely ruin the electronics in the car. It will ruin all the connections in the car. If you live in a state, and well, let's say you want to buy one of those cars. Now, those cars, what they usually can do is they can make the headlights work and the taillights work, and the engine and the transmission, they'll flush those out with fresh water. They'll flush them out with brake cleaner, and they'll put fresh oil and transmission fluid in them and change all the fluids, and it'll run. Usually they'll run pretty good. They'll run for a long time, but the electronics will not hold up. What you have to do is, if you're going to buy one of those cars and you know it's a flood car, they won't typically tell you that it's a flood car, but it's a used car. The title will say reconstructed, or the title will say major repairs or something like that. And if the car is from Florida or one of those places, the Carolinas, where they had a flood there when the storm came back in, you really do have to check the title, ask questions. Okay, you're going to see corrosion in all the connectors. The wiring harnesses where they plug in under the dashboard, where the two wires meet together, is where the corrosion will take place. The salt in there just makes it corrode. You go that green fuzz on it, like from a battery that shorted out, and it'll ruin the connections. So especially if you live in a state that has a state inspection where everything has to work. I know a couple people that bought flood cars. The dashboard was offline right from the get-go. Speedometer didn't work. None of the temperature gauges, fuel gauges, heat gauge, none of the warning lights worked on the dashboard. The dashboard was completely shot. I even think they disconnected it because they couldn't get the corrosion. They couldn't get the car to run because there was so much corrosion in the wiring harness that it was shorting out. So sometimes they cut out the gauges. So if you're going to buy a flood car, or you're going to buy a car that was damaged with salt water, and you live in a state that has state inspection, like here in Pennsylvania, they're very picky. I know my car, they wouldn't pass the car because the left front rotor was too thin. Get that. The left front rotor, they said, was worn down, has 55,000 miles on it. The left front rotor has never been cut for brakes or anything. So I says, I'm on my second set of brakes. The first set of brakes lasted about 40,000 miles. The second lasted, it only has about 18,000 miles on the second set of brakes. But they said the rotor is worn too thin. They wouldn't pass it for inspection. They have to replace the rotor. Rotors, for him to do it, was $600, $300 each side. And you can buy a rotor on eBay or one of those automobile places, probably about $45 each. And so it's still expensive, but you had to do it because you wouldn't pass it. They get like a micrometer and they measure the thickness of the rotor, and if it's too thin, and I think it was like a 0.02 where it wouldn't pass. It's ridiculous. But anyway, they're making things thinner. Things don't last as long as they used to. So we'll go from there. Listen, I did want to tell you about the automobile industry is still suffering from can't get the parts. we have put ourselves in a position where a lot of the parts and the metals and the different things that we use in the cars are not manufactured in this country. So, places like China and Indonesia and India, where they're making the parts and they're sending them to us, or they're processing the metal and they're sending it over here, or they're making the chips and sending it to here. Those places are gouging us. They've raised the prices 3-4 times their value, and you have no choice. Nobody else makes them except them. We've given them the technology. We showed them how to make the chip. We shut down all the factories here. We can't make them here. So they're saying, hey, yeah, we're going to continue to make them. But you know what? Instead of $20, now it's $120 for that part. Because, we're suffering here too with the pandemic. And we want to make a little more money. So, yeah, we're stuck. We're getting gouged on a lot of those parts. And that's part of the logistics problem. You can't get the parts for the cars. And the other thing is, we talked last week about electric cars. The electric cars, you know what? They're good, but you have to look at the long-term effects and what's happening and how they're making the cars. The number one thing that's a problem right now are the batteries. Ford announced today they're going to raise the price of the electric pickup truck, the Lightning, by $12,000. So I think it went from $48,000 to $60,000 for a pickup truck that's electric. And they said the reason was the batteries have quadrupled in price. Getting things like what are the elements they use there? Zinc, lithium, lead. All those things. They said, they're having problems getting the elements to make the batteries. It's more expensive to make the batteries. It's dangerous to make the batteries, and there's not enough of those precious metals to go around to make the batteries. Now, what's the count of electric cars in this country? 3%, 5%. How are they going to find enough raw materials to make batteries for all the cars when they can't find enough raw materials to keep the current number of cars running with new batteries? And we talked about that before. A new battery pack for your car is going to cost anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000. So if you buy a Chevy Volt and you drive it for 60, 70,000 miles, they tell you, hey, you need a new battery pack. Your batteries aren't holding the charge. You can only go like 40 miles and then the batteries are dead. You got to get the batteries changed, $12,000. Okay, and I think that does include disposal of the used battery, which is a problem. What are you going to do? I'm not sure if you're going to be able to reclaim some of the materials in the battery. I know we get the Ever-Ready batteries. You put them in your flashlight. You put them in the remote for the TV. Throw them in the trash. They're not reusable. They're not recycled. They don't try to recapture any of the materials that are in the battery so they can use it. They're going in the dump. Okay, that's a whole nother story about what we're throwing in the dump. We're poisoning the water and killing the environment. I'm sorry to go on and on about that, but that's true too. Well, let me see here. I'm looking for some comments here. Give me some comments out there. Let me know what you want to talk about, and let's move forward with that. Let's talk about used cars for a minute. Okay, if the car is from that area, you have to be very wary of the electronics in the car. It's not going to last, even though they flushed it out. Even though you take it apart, there's still wire harnesses that you can't get to that are back behind the dashboard and everything. That the salt water is corroding them as you're driving them around. If you're going to buy a used car, be careful of the amount of miles that you have. Say you're going to take a chance. You're going to buy a car with over 100,000 miles on it. Couple things you have to do when you go and check the car. Okay, you want to be there when they first start up the car. So number one thing is look inside. If that's the kind of car you want, everything looks good, don't let them start the car. You have to open the hood, look under the hood, and make sure the engine is cold. Touch the engine, because some of them will, if they know you're coming, you want to look at this car, they'll start up the car, they'll warm it up so it'll run really good, and it'll start up first try, anything like that. So you want to make sure the engine's cold. Okay. So, okay, I am interested in the car. Let's start it up. So you start it up. First thing you want to do is check the exhaust. Now, if it's a cold engine and you start it up and you get a big puff of smoke out of the back, you may have a problem with burning oil, or the engine may have a lot of miles on it and it wasn't taken care of. So be careful when you first start up a cold engine how much stuff puffs out of the back. Okay, so you let that run. You get the exhaust. Say you got a nice clean exhaust coming out of the back. You didn't have any smoke or anything when it first started up. Okay, that's step one. Step two, you let it warm up. While it's warming up, you look at the front tires to see if they're worn unevenly. Now, if the front tires look good and they're not worn unevenly, go look at the back tires. Because one of the tricks they do is they get the worn out front tires and they put them on the back. So you have to bend down, you have to look under to see if the back tires are worn unevenly. If they are, back tires usually don't do that. Usually that's a front tire thing. So if the back tires are the ones that are worn unevenly, they used to be the front tires. Okay, now they took them off the front, put them on the back, and they put the evenly worn tires on the front. So you may be looking at some front end problems. You may be looking at a front end alignment to get that straightened out. You're not going to find out until you drive the car for 5,000 miles and you see the tires are wearing unevenly. So that's an expense you really don't want to have when you just buy the car. You want to make sure that's taken care of. Okay, so now the engine's warmed up. Under the hood, it's usually in the valve cover. For those of you who are familiar with an engine, the cap where you put the oil in. When the car's low on oil, you take the cap off, and that's where you put the oil in. Now, that's the cap we want to look at. We want to go, and you have to turn that and lift that cap off. Now, you're going to be able to see into the valve cover. You're going to see, maybe you'll see a valve or something. Sometimes they have a baffle in there to keep oil from splashing out. But you want to see in that opening as to what's happening in there. Now, when you have compression on an engine, the piston goes down and it pushes up for compression. If the engine is worn out, some of the compression will get past the piston into the oil pan at the bottom, and it will pressurize the inside of the engine. Okay, and what that's called is blow-by. Now you have blow-by that when the engine's running, the blow-by gets past the cylinder, the rings on the piston, into the crankcase, and it'll blow out of that cap that you just took off. So if you have puffs of smoke or puffs of burnt oil coming out of that cap, it might be a lot, it might be a little bit, it may not be any at all. But if you have puffs of smoke coming out of that and you see there's like an exhaust being pushed out of that, you might have bad rings. You may have an engine that wasn't taken care of. The oil wasn't changed regularly. They used the wrong kind of oil in it, cheap oil rather than a good quality lubricating oil. So that may be a problem where it's going to cause high expensive engines repairs. It's going to use oil between oil changes. Okay, so put that cap back on. If you didn't see anything there, then the engine looks like it's in good shape. Okay. Now, what that usually happens with that is you'll see another PCV valve, which is a crankcase ventilation valve. Okay, and what that'll do is that actually has a vacuum hose that goes over to the fuel injector or the carburetor, and that tries to keep a negative pressure in the crankcase. So the manufacturer makes that intentionally to not have the oil blow out the gaskets or ruin the gaskets or anything like that. They used to have, instead of that cap sealing it, that cap just used to have a filter in it, and it would let the blow-by blow into the engine compartment. But they changed that because they put a vacuum hose, small vacuum hose, from the bottom of the carburetor or over where the injector is, over to a PCV valve, which keeps a negative pressure in the crankcase so you don't have blow-by under the hood. Okay, so that's why they did that. So if the exhaust look clean and you don't have a lot of exhaust pressure coming out of that opening where that is, looks like the engine would be in good shape. Okay. Some of the cars have access to the transmission fluid. You have the dipstick. Some of them just have a snap-on seal, so you can't check the transmission. You have to go to the dealer to check the transmission. Usually you don't have to worry about servicing the transmission for 50, 60, 70,000 miles. What you do then is you change the transmission oil. There's a filter in most of the new transmissions. It really should be changed. You have to find out if the transmission's been serviced. Okay? Now, if the transmission has been serviced, you want to see the certificate, the receipt that it was changed. And when they take that apart, they also look for metal filings in the transmission fluid to see if the transmission is starting to fail. And that's one of the first things they do is they have a magnetic plug or something in the transmission pan where it will keep the metal from recycling through to the other parts of the transmission. So it'll try to keep the metal out of the oil. And you'll see that when they change it, and they'll be able to tell you if they're finding things like that in there. So, yeah, I got a comment. It is cold here in the garage tonight. I got my hands in my hoodie. I guess it's about 46 degrees. I'm not sure how cold it is actually, but we're a little chilly here tonight. But let me keep moving on here. And I'm sorry about starting out late. I think we got it figured out. We'll be able to do it live next Saturday night. We should be able to go live without a whole bunch of delays. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. Okay, used cars. We went through the exhaust. We went by the blow-by. We told you how to check the tires. It's very wary. Get a guarantee or some kind of a warranty on a used car. If you buy from a car lot, you can usually get a better deal, or let's see, you can get a cheaper price if you buy it direct from an owner. That's where you have to watch it, because sometimes they don't tell you the truth. Not that everybody doesn't tell the truth, but everybody's trying to sell a car, trying to get the most for it. Just look at the Kelley Blue Books and things like that of what the car is worth. There's usually a lot of things about cars to watch out for, cars that are notorious for some kind of problems, and you have to watch out for those kind of things. So be careful of that. Flood cars especially, you're going to see all kinds of flood cars hitting the marketplace. We'll ship it to you and they'll sell a brand new car for half price, but it's going to be a flood car, and you're going to have problems with it over the years. It's not going to last. All right. We talked about the Ford Lightning and the price of the batteries making the Ford Lightning go up to $12,000. All the cars across the board are probably going to go up $3,000 to $5,000 next year. The price of parts, the price of the chips is just being gouged by the foreign manufacturers. They're getting a ridiculous price for it because they're complaining about they can't get the materials either. They're having to pay higher prices for the raw materials, and so that means you're going to pay a lot more for that, just like we're going to do for oil. I mean, that's probably political to even bring that up, which I don't want to do that, but we have to be independent. We have to start manufacturing things here in the United States, so we can't be held hostage with this. It's dangerous, and we'll go from there. Okay, it was nickel, zinc, lithium, and lead were some of the elements you need for the battery, and all of them are in high demand. Everybody's trying to make a better battery, and the raw material parts are going through the roof. So I don't know if you're watching the stock market, but everything's going up on those fronts about how expensive it is to buy those minerals. Okay, let's talk about the Ukraine war. I know a lot of you are watching TV. I know myself as a veteran, I'm very interested in what's going on there, the strategies that they're using. Russia's really taking a beating on a lot of different fronts. The weapons that we're giving them, the intelligence that they're getting from all different sources, the Ukraine army, getting from other different sources, the strategies they're doing. I heard today that something happened to that bridge that ties Russia into Crimea. They blew up the bridge, and they knew what they were doing. It looks like it was a car bomb. I don't know if somebody drove the car there and detonated, or somebody was in the car when it detonated. It looked like they drove the bomb there, got out of the car, and drove away, and then remotely detonated the car. And just so happened that the bridge runs next to another railroad bridge that the trains go on that bridge. And there was a train there that had a lot of 40, 50 cars of looked like fuel oil, jet fuel, gasoline, something. But the car bomb went off, collapsed that part of the bridge, and damaged and ignited the cars on the train. So effectively it ruined the bridge. Now that whole area is cut off. There were actually Russians vacationing in Crimea because that's a big beach area down there, and a lot of the wealthy Russians were taking their families down to Crimea for vacation. They have a very popular beach there because it's further south. It's so much tropical, and it's gone now. I mean, that was a sabotage by Ukraine or by somebody. I mean, Ukraine's obviously happy that happened. Russia's not happy with that happened. And really, the dangerous thing that's going on over there, you're pushing somebody who has no intentions of losing this war. He has no intentions of losing. He will do anything, and I do mean anything. When he says he's getting ready to start using nuclear weapons, the low what do they call it, the low yield nuclear devices he's going to use to win the war. And pretty much what that does, it's a low yield weapon, but it's a city destroyer. So he could go in and he could blow Kiev off the map with one bomb. And if you don't surrender, then he'll blow another city off the map with another bomb. And that's what he does. And that's what he's threatening to do. And they've been watching him build up troops along Norway and Sweden because they're threatening to go to NATO. They're not members of NATO right now. Sweden's always tried to be neutral. They didn't want to get involved, but they're going to get involved. They buy their energy from Russia. Russia's gouging them on their natural gas and oil and gasoline and things like that because, and the propaganda that they put out, you can't drill for oil. It's bad for the environment. You can't do it because it's poisoning the planet. You can't do this because of the global warming. Well, you know what? A lot of those places that are funded comes from Russia. I mean, they put out the propaganda. You can't drill for your own oil in Germany. You can't drill for your own oil in Spain. You have to buy it from us because you don't want to pollute your plant. You're part of the planet, and you don't want to do the refining there. Well, now they're beholden to Russia. They really don't have any plans of trying to be energy independent. So Russia is gouging them. Russia's making millions of dollars from them, and that's how they're funding the war. So think about how crazy that is. You're actually giving him money for gasoline, and he's turning around with the profits from that to buy weapons to go invade a neighboring country of yours. Now, I don't know. I don't get it. Why would you continue to do that? But that's what's going on over there. And, I said it before, this isn't about anything but greed and wealth. Ukraine has a lot of oil reserves. Ukraine is rich in food production. And Ukraine has some of the best run nuclear power plants over there, supplies a lot of Europe with power from their nuclear power plants. Well, Chernobyl's over there. We all know about that. They still got a 50-mile or 25-mile dead zone around that reactor, and it's probably going to be there for another 1,000 years before anybody can go live there. It's crazy. I mean, if you have a chance, look at some of the stories about that. The animals are flourishing. The fish, the wildlife, they're all evolving. They're making changes to their DNA, but they reproduce every 3 or 4 years. Where a human doesn't, we don't do that, so we can't adapt. But anyway, it's funny about that. And so I would be very wary about Putin and what he's going to be doing. It's very dangerous. They blew up the bridge, and he's attacking civilian targets to try and get the people to give up. He wants everybody to give up, and they're not going to do it. I mean, if we stop supporting Ukraine, or everybody else says, hey, look, we're tired of this war, we want it to stop, just give Russia what they want so it stops, it's a shame if they do that, because Russia will just slowly try and take over all of the riches that Ukraine has to offer. And you know it's true. That's what it's all about. It's all about money and power. But anyway, so okay, let's see what we did here. I got a drum here tonight. Really don't have any jokes to tell, but I got that in. Thinking about getting a band. Thinking about having some musical guests or some kind of a guest on the show. Trying to build up some viewership too. So if you want to be a viewer, subscribe. We'll let you know. We do plan on being here every Saturday night. We are going to try and stay here in the garage. I don't know about how much colder it's going to get, but winter is coming, and we'll see how long we have to stay out here. I don't know if these computers will keep running at 20, 30 degrees out here at night in the garage, but we're going to try it. Maybe we might have to move into the other studio. I'm not sure. But anyway, let me backtrack here on some other things. Steelers are playing tomorrow, Sunday. They changed the quarterback to Kenny Pickett from Pitt, and everybody's looking forward to that. They think he's going to be the answer to their losing streak, as you want to say. They got to get him on board. Let me get a drink here. All right, that hit the spot. Keep talking with that. Ready? I love that. I wish I had some jokes to tell. All right, if you want to come on and tell some jokes, let me know. We'll have you on here. But anyway, that kind of wraps up what I wanted to go through tonight. Looking forward to your comments. Thank you, Bad Weather. It is cold in the garage tonight. Thank you for getting the live streaming up and running. He does a lot of my technical work too. He's always a big help. I appreciate having him around. And he even commented on Somewhere Over the Rainbow. It's a good song. I mean, we were killing it. We were rocking it out. But anyway, it turned into a big fight. Okay, everybody. Thank you for watching Mike's Garage. I appreciate all the viewership. I appreciate your comments tonight. Looking forward to getting more comments during the week. I'm going to do a video about how to be careful and look for some of the things on a used car. I always felt that a car would last about 140,000 miles or 10 years. If you're looking at a car that's older than 10 years old and it's got more than 140,000 miles on it, it's pretty much close to the end of its life. The wiring harnesses wear out. Depends what part of the country it's in. I do hear they're having a problem with the Prius. If that sits in the sun, if you leave it outside, it overheats. The batteries seem to short out for some reason. So, just check that out. See if that's true in the area you live in. But anyway, thanks for watching Mike's Garage. Appreciate everybody. We can always use more subscribers. We're trying to get to 1,000. I think we're almost at 760 right now. So we don't have much further to go. Hit that subscribe button for me, and I appreciate it. Take care. Do something nice for a stranger, and we'll see you next Saturday night. Bye, everybody.